Either you have to use rocks or bricks and seed and plaster. You can't use wood. That's boiled. You can't make these aksaders, these balconies, porches of wood. There's actually a Ravid that questions the Rambam. He says there was a lishka called Lishka Ha'etz, where the Kohen Gadol spent time there. And Simchas Beis Habechira, they built a balcony of eights. So he says, that's not what he says. The Ravid says, Elamai, it's only Aser in the Ezras Kohanim and on. But in the Ezras Nashim, that was the extra part that was Ezras Nashim, basically from Shar Nikner, which is the room that they had the Mizbeach. But in Ezras Nashim, you're allowed to. That is what the Ravid holds. Yeah. In terms with the Rambam, the four like little corners. Oh, well, that actually had the regular Azara had pieces sticking out. So Rabbi Fuss is asking, how can you have pieces of wood to make the border between the Kohanim and Yisraelim? It's a good question. Here in Ha'ara 67, he brings a few Mefarshim that deal with it. He doesn't bring their whole answer. But one answer suggested that's only a problem if you actually implant the wood in the ground. It's kavua in the ground. But if it's connected to something else and the other thing is on the ground, that's okay. And the reason for that is, why you're not allowed to have wood in the Beis Hamikdash? What's wrong? Because it used to be a custom by Avodah Zarah, they planted a tree, and a shaded tree near their Mizbeach. To stay away from Avodah Zarah, Hashem said you can't have wood in the Beis Hamikdash. But if it looks like a tree because it's connected to the ground, but it's connected to something else that's connected to the ground, maybe that's okay. That's one of the answers suggested. It was a real tree, not a piece of wood. No, but it seems like they had a special inyan to plant a tree, a shada. We want to.
That was the thing for the whole Harabayis. You want a lot of trees there.
But in terms of this, of putting any eights
in the Beis Hamikdash,
so you can make a chiluk if it's there or it's planted in, or screwed into the ground, mamish.
Never was artificial.
Yud.
They never did. It was always a natural tree.
It seems like, but they still answer not natural. But if it's like a notua, if it's it says loisita ace. Yud. They use heavy rocks on the floor of the azara, and it has to be put in a permanent way. I know, but here is tight as heavy. Yeah. Vim nekra even. What's if a rock moved away from its space and it's like sort of went up and it's not strong, inserted in the ground? Even though it's still in its place. The kohen cannot do avoida while he's standing on that stone. The cover body still will be permanently inserted in the ground. There's a machlokes that the Rambam, the Kesef Mishnah says that it's not possible to avoida. It's just l'chatchila you shouldn't do avoida. But the Eva is possible. Others hold that it's mamish possible. Yud Aleph. The best way is to make the binyan as strong and as high as possible. The way, whatever the Yidden are able to handle. Shenemar l'roimim is beis Elokeinu. Mefar noisa, you make it beautiful. Meyapin kifikoichan, as much as we can afford, and they could try to make it as beautiful as possible. You can plaster a coating of gold over the entire Beis Hamikdash. It is a mitzvah, it's an extra mitzvah. If you could, it's not ma'akiv, but if you could, make it as beautiful as possible. Allah Yudbeis. Ein boinus hamikdash balayla. You cannot build a Beis Hamikdash by night. Shenemar biyoim hakim es hamishkan. That by day they put up the mishkan, not by night. Biyoim hakimin v'loy balayla. V'oiskim bebiyim alois hashachar ad tzeis kacham. The day for construction is from alois till tzeis. V'akol chayavim livnois u'zayid ba'atzim b'moinam. Everyone has to help, side with building themselves and with donating money. Anoshim v'noshim, men and women. K'mikdash hamikdash, just like in the midbar, everyone participated. With one exception, that children are learning in Cheder Torah, we don't stop them from learning even to build a Beis Hamikdash. And you also don't build it on Yom Tif. So there is a shita that says that it's only the Azara, not the whole Beis Hamikdash that you can't build by night. One ha'ara. Another ha'ara, if it's only chayiv by day, how can you say that women are chayiv? Women are pater from mitzvahs aseh shazman grama. So if you can only build a mikdash by day, then you have to say that women only chayiv to donate money, not to build the gufam. Mamoinam you can donate by day and by night. So possibly they're not chayiv to build the guf.
In the Michel they work by day.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean they're chayiv. The question is, are women? It says that noshim and noshim are both chayiv. So in the midbar, they both donated. The women that were chachamim,
they spun.
They spun, but it doesn't mean they were chayiv to.
If you build it day and night, it's not a Shishad Magram. You can't do a Shabbat.
Okay, question is if you can't do it on Shabbos, they can't get stuck on Shabbos. It's still not a mitzvah says grama because it's a side point because of Isser Muktzah on Shabbos. I don't know if that would be considered not Zman grama if the Isser on Shabbos is because you're not allowed on Shabbos, because Shabbos is partially the day that you should, that is no chiv in Beis Hamikdash, or because Shabbos is Isser Malacha. Like it's Ayu Deravila, it's like a lion stopping you. I don't know. There's many mitzvahs you can't, mitzvahs tvidius, and maybe you can't do on Shabbos for a side reason. It's a good question. Yud Gimel. HaMizbeach ein oisin oisei ala biyin avonim. The Mizbeach has to be built with stone. V'zesh number Torah, the Mizbeach adama tasli. In one pasuk it says you should make it a Mizbeach of earth. Sheyeh mechuber b'adama means connected to the adama. Shlo yevnu lo yal gabi kipin v'lo yal Michel. There shouldn't be tunnels or arches that are under the Mizbeach. It should be touching the ground. V'zesh number of Mizbeach avonim. Over here doesn't mean reshus, like optional, but it's a choiv. It has to be from avonim. Yudalit. Kol even shenifkama kadesh talk about tziporin kesakin shashchita. Yeah, most of the Beis Hamikdash was actually on arches, a lot of it. They didn't build it necessarily on the Adama. They built arches because of Tumah, but the Mizbeach has to be built on the natural earth. Can't have an arch or build something and then put it on top of the structure. But other parts of the Beis Hamikdash didn't have to be that way. So it's a din miyuchid for the Mizbeach that it has to touch the actual Adama. We'll see later how important the Adama right under the Mizbeach is. Okay, Yudal. Any rock of the Mizbeach that got a pagam, it got a blemish, it got the damage, like a little scrape, enough. The dent is enough that if you put your nail, it'll get caught in, just like your boidik knife for shchita. And there's a psula lakevesh on the mizbeach. It's possible either side for the ram, side for the mizbeach. Shenemar avonim shleimis tivenim mizbeach Hashem. So shleimis means 100% whole, no blemish and no dents. From where do you get these rocks? They go to a natural earth that was never really done any construction there. They dig deep until they reach an area that no one ever did any construction there. So no one ever dug any rocks from there. From there you take out stones. Or another option, you can go to the ocean and I guess go surfing and go down. What do you call it? No, it's not snorkeling or scuba diving. Yeah, and find some rocks there. And from there you can do it. So also the stones of the Heichel Nazara are shleimus. You have to differentiate between the Heichel Nazara and the Mizbeach. For the Heichel Nazara, they did not have to dig deep into the ground to find rocks. Only for the Mizbeach, because the Mizbeach, there was an Isser for metal to touch the Mizbeach. If any stone of the Mizbeach metal touched it, it's puzzled. So if you took regular rocks, maybe someone else did construction and dug rocks from the same place, and they used metal. So they had to dig in an area that no one ever dug before. So they know that these rocks down there were never touched by metal. Everybody said before that according to the Rambam, you can use metal, just not on the Harabayas. But outside the Harabayas, you can use metal to smoothen it. and there's no issur for metal to touch those stones. So he just says that for the Heichal Hazara, you have to have shleimus. You can't have any dents. The Mizbeach, not only you can't have any dents, but you can't even have metal ever touching it. So you have to dig in a special place and find stones that no one ever touched before.
You have more of a beginner than the Mizbeach also. Only on the Mizbeach is such a beginner.
No, it's mashma that pegima is a problem anywhere.
Even such a tiny beginner.
Yeah, it says v'chein avnei hechel ha'aretz shleimus hayu, but touching metal, touching it is only a problem for the mizbeach. Tezvav, ve'avnei hechel v'azares shenivkemu shenigemu psulos. Even the avnei hechel and the azara, if they have a pgam, they're possible. Ve'ein lem pidyon ela nignazim. You can't actually buy them off the Beis Hamikdash and give the money and trade it. They have to be buried like shemus. Nignazim. Kol evan shenaga bar barzel. Any rock that Barzel touched it, even if there's no pgam, there's no dent or denture, it's still possible for the mizbeach and for the ramp, for the kevish. Just by having a sword on it, meaning something metal, it becomes mechulo, like because the mizbeach is there to lengthen the life of a person, and metal is used to shorten people's lives. Actually, is that you get malchus for shenemar like Stephen asked in Gazis. If the rock had a blemish, but it wasn't because of metal, it's just it had a dent, and you put it in, you're even asay. You didn't do a lois say, but you missed asay. You don't get malchus. Halacha tezayin. Evan shenifkam. It was already constructed in Mizbeach, and later on it got a dent, or someone touched it with metal. What do you do now? I say Evan Psula. That stone is possible, not the whole Mizbeach. The rest of the Mizbeach is kosher. You remove that stone. Twice a year they would whiten the Mizbeach, meaning they would put plaster and make it nice and smooth and white. By Pesach or B'chag, Pesach and Sukkot. When you put a coating of plaster, you use a cloth. You didn't use the metal tool that you usually use to smoothen plaster. Why? Maybe between the plaster, some of the metal will touch the actual stone, and once it touches the stone, it's possible. So actually, over here, the David also has a problem, and he says not just the Mizbeach. Whenever they used to use plaster, the Heichel, the Azara, you couldn't use metal. You had to use shmata or use something from wood.
Use plastic.
If they didn't have, but technically they would have been able to use plastic, yeah, rubber, but they didn't have then. Because the David holds that you're not allowed to have metal touching any rock in the Beis Hamikdash. It's only the outside the Harabais you can have metal touching the other rocks. Kanina the Rambam holds that it's not a problem for metal touching, even though you're not allowed to cut with metal in the Beis Hamikdash, but not a problem if the metal touches. Only the Mizbeach metal can't even touch. Yud Zayin. Ein oisim madreges the Mizbeach. The Mizbeach is not allowed to have steps. Shenemar l'salo amaylas al Mizbechi. Elaboyin kumoitel bedroimish al Mizbeach. They have like sort of a hill, a ramp. Mismayit v'yoyrin miroshim Mizbeach adar. It slowly goes downward in a slant from the Mizbeach to the earth. For a nikah kavish, that's what we call the kavish. V'ayla amaylas al Mizbeach loike. Someone who walks up Mizbeach on steps, he gets malchus. V'chein. Hanoiseitz even achas min Mizbeach and Mikol HaHeichel. Someone who breaks even one stone of anywhere, either the Mizbeach or the Heichel, oy mi beina ulam Mizbeach. Derech hashchasa, he does it because he wants to destroy. Obviously, sometimes you have to take it out because it became puzzle. But he does it derech hashchasa, and you get malchus. Shenemar nitastem is mizuchaysam, the Mizbeachas of Avodah Zarah you should break. And leisasu kein l'shem lakechem. And so it's a loisa say to do it anywhere in the Beis Hamikdash. Rather, from here we also learn the chaymer adavar to break anything in a Beis HaKnesses, which is like a mikdash ma'at. Maybe you don't get malchus, but it's also learned out from the sasu kein Hashem akechem not to destroy something of a Beis HaKnesses, a Beis HaMedrash. Yudches. Hamenoida v'kelea, hashulchan v'kelav, mizbech hakdoides v'chol klei shadas, all the kelim of the Beis HaMikdash. Ein oisin oison, that like the kelim of the menorah, shulchan, and mizbech haktoides. Ein oisin oison elamina matchis bovat. You have to use metal. Now metal could mean regular metal. It could be gold, silver, but it has to be metals, not clay, stone, or wood. You must also shall eitz or etzem or even or schluchis or from glass. Psulin. There was taka tkufa that maybe beginning by a sheni and couldn't afford gold. They made the menorah from other metals, and later they made from gold. But it has to be a matchis. Yutes. How you call aniyim? Oisin oisin afil shel bedil, which is a very cheap metal. Lead, but it's all considered matchis. Shiru, they got richer. If they were able to afford more, oisin shel zav, they make it from gold. Afilo amizrakos v'ashapudin v'magrefes, these forks that they used, and spears and the little shovels. Shamizbacha oila v'amidos, all the measuring things. Imesh koyach betzibra oisin shel zav. The more you can make from gold, the better. Afilu shani azar, even the gates of the azar, you have a coating over the wood. You coat it with gold, or whatever other thing you use. You can coat it with gold. Imatze yadam, if they're able to afford it. Allah chaf. Ein oisin kol hakelim mitchilasan el l'shem hakodesh. When you make the keli, it has to have in mind that you're doing it to use in the Beis Hamikdash. V'imnasim mitchilasan lehedyet, if it was made for hedyet, for regular weekday use. Ein oisin l'goya, you don't use it for the Beis Hamikdash anymore. Ukli gavaya, a keli that was designated to be used in the Beis Hamikdash. Ad shel ishtamashim gavaya, they were never used yet for the Beis Hamikdash. Rash shel ishtamashim hedyet. Hedyet can use it, means you can use it for a weekday thing. As soon as they were once used for Beis Hamikdash, it's already ulcer, like Mila. If you had rocks or beams of wood that you prepare them to make a shul, it's a shul. The guy with this Hamikdash is like a hedyet. Ain't boy nice in harabais. You can't use those rocks or koidos for the harabais.
Mine is now.
You ever see a picture? No, shulchan or anything else.